Hello, Quantum Life. Just checking in to do an energy report and talk about all the things that are coming up this week with us in our Quantum Life subscription group and TICA and our reality segment that we're doing here at the house. And I just wanted to pop in and give you guys an update because May was a really difficult month. And I don't mean that in a negative way. When I say difficult, I don't necessarily mean bad or good. It was just lot of changes, and I'm sure hopefully by now you guys have all watched the second Sunday that I did for May, and you know, it was basically the message was break down, break through, break up, and however order that has flown in your life for May, I'm sure that resonates in some way or another, because in collective consciousness we are all going through different storylines, but we are going through the same clearing of timeline energy on the planet. And so regardless of the storyline that you're particularly acting out, you're going to be going through some of the things that we talk about and that are showing up in everyone's lives right now. And that is kind of a breakdown and a breakthrough. It could be break up, it could be moving, it could be finally getting out of certain relationships, it could be changing jobs, it could be finally like getting sick and tired of situations that are happening with your body and you moving into a different kind of breakthrough opportunity for yourself. And May was a deconstruction. You know, for our becoming, we have to unbecome. And that's really what a lot of people were experiencing May, including myself. I would say that May was probably one of the most difficult months that I've had, and what I mean by difficult, again, is change. There was a lot of change for me in May, and it's funny because I was talking to my housemates the other day about how my birthday falls in May, and how I had so much PTSD around my particular birthday month that I didn't even realize. You know, it's like every year it's like, oh, my birthday, but growing up, my birthdays were always really horrible, and you know, people would forget them, or I would be in trouble, or you know, or whatever. I mean, fill in the blank. I don't need to go through the sob stories, but you know, that's all stored in our bodies, and our bodies know who we are. They know the story that is in our body is the story of who we've been. So we have to work really hard to stay in the present moment and fine tune our focus if we're ever going to change who we've been. And so regardless of how much energetic work I've done, I noticed that this birthday, it was like a domino effect of everything that needed to change. I'm also hitting the end of a 7-year cycle, and that 7-year cycle is about mastering certain patterns and making that choice of, do I want to continue to do it this way? Do I want to keep living this way? And so to me, we never are presented with the opportunity to change unless something becomes unpleasant or it just changes underneath us. Because again, what does it actually take us? What does it take us as humans to finally change a pattern? You know, it's not easy. Usually we're kind of pushed into it, or we just get sick and tired of it. And that is really kind of was my May. It was like honoring who and what I choose to be for the next 7-year cycle. And when you start a first 7-year cycle, and I will actually post the grid of what the 7-year cycle looks like, is the first, when you start a first year of your end, is you start in self-awareness again, just like that little baby who's becoming aware of their body, and you become aware of who you've been, and you have that center point where you can decide who you choose to be. And so if we're going to become, then we have to unbecome. We have to move past things that we no longer resonate with, and we have to stop doing things that are insulting to our soul, which means that we have to create energetic boundaries. And I got really kind of intense in last Saturday's class, TICA. Anybody who's in TICA will relate to this, that sat through the class live. There's moments where I get really raw and vulnerable, because to me, being a teacher has nothing to do with being perfect. It has everything to do with being very transparent and very authentic. And authentic does not mean perfect. Authentic means that I'm going to fall down, and I'm going to make mistakes, and I'm going to hurt myself, and I possibly could hurt others, and there's nothing wrong with that, because if you're a teacher or a coach or a healer or a practitioner or anything, you are not void of still playing darkness for other people at times. You are not still void of making mistakes. You're still not void of hitting those brick walls that we call our lives and start having to recalibrate who we are. And so I went on a sharing spree on Saturday's class that I'm actually decided that I'm going to be posting that class in our Quantum Life subscription group. And I use that Quantum Life subscription group to share really, really private teachings and really vulnerable aspects of my life. That's where our reality show is held, the reality show of our lives, you know, our shadow work that goes on in the house, the way we raise our kids, the way we prepare food, the way that we pay our bills, all these human aspects of who we really are. Because just because we're spiritual teachers or life transformational coaches, it does not mean that we're not still paying bills and dealing with each other and having egos and processing through path of least resistance, and also living life through blind spots and trauma, you know, and working towards and for that purpose. And so all of those really interpersonal conversations that we have about our relationships with each other, relationships with people outside us, we get really detailed, we get very vulnerable, and that's kind of our safe space to be able to be very, very authentic and raw in that particular group. And in this group, it's more of a kind of a flash of what all of that looks like, and the podcasts and just the broadscape teachings and being able to facilitate our other coaches in here and things like that. So what June is going to represent for us is, you know, I said it in January in Second Sunday, this is the year of solar plexus. We're taking our power back. So what we've done is we have said that we're going to be doing that, and we set that intention in January, and we set this intention that we're going to become who we are. We didn't realize that with any type of healing, that when you set intentions like that, everything that's in the way of that has to unbecome. Everything that's in the way of that has to shine itself to you to show you where your vibration was, so that you can move through that and past that, so you can elevate into that person that you say you really are. And so that's what this first half of the year has been for all of us. It's an unraveling. It's a shaking us to the core. It's waking us up even further than we've been awake. It's pushing our buttons. It's triggering us. It's it's busting open. We're unbecoming. And when I say we're unbecoming, what I mean is we are moving away from what we're not anymore, so that we can get back to that neutral 0 point of being able to say, okay, done living poverty, I'm done living in pain, I'm done living with relationships that don't honor me, I'm done with this. And now June is going to represent the time when you really sit down and create that blueprint for yourself. And what does that blueprint look like? It is self-respecting boundaries, because what is self-love? Self-love is not giving love to someone else, especially when it is at the price of losing yourself. We've done that many, many times. You know, we're givers as empaths. It's our natural instinct to give. But if we're not able to receive, is that self-respecting? So Saturday's class was all about self-respect, and how I got pushed to the edge, actually, with another teacher that pushed me to that edge and gave me such an amazing gift to help me say, you know what, I'm not self-respecting me in my own business or with myself or with my boundaries. And I had to sit down that moment and create new boundaries for this new version of myself. And one of them was basically to stop giving myself away so much in that way. And I have no problem listing those boundaries that I created for myself, because they're not the empath boundaries. They're not the spiritual boundaries. They're personal self-respect boundaries that I advise you guys all to sit down and generate and create, because June is going to be waiting. The energy of June is going to be waiting for what you say and how you say things are going to go. You know, we've kind of disheveled. We've kind of hit that quintessential energetic rock bottom of what we can tolerate anymore. We've been pushed to the edge, and we're getting to that place where maybe we're just sick and tired of being blocked in that same area that we've been blocked for 30 years. And we have that energy within us to finally say no really loudly. But when you say no, you need to give the universe direction, because the universe only hears yes. So when you say no, the universe hears yes. And if you don't say no, I'm not that, I'm this, and then give the universe a clear perspective of what your boundaries are, you don't need to know who you're going to be in 5 months. You need to know what your boundaries are. And those boundaries are going to be very, very important for how your next basically 5 to 6 months go. And I would love to share with you guys the boundaries that I created for myself, because you know, as a people pleaser and a doormat and an empath and an intuitive and a healer, you know, I have been safe to give myself away my whole life. That's how I've been safe. That's how, you know, that's how I've kept myself protected from being vulnerable, and receiving has not been easy for me. And then when I did receive it, it turned around and bit me in the butt. And then I said, see, this is why I can't receive. And so changing those beliefs and changing all of that stuff, and showing you guys how I'm doing this, because, you know, being a teacher of this particular quantum perspective has nothing to do with idealistic guruship. It is, I'm a mom. I've been a girlfriend, I've been a wife, I'm a sister, I'm a friend, and I make mistakes, and I'm trying to live a very human, heaven on earth perspective, yet I'm still that human perspective, but I have that higher perspective that I can share with myself and others. And that's the purpose of this group and my teachings, is that we're all just walking side by side, and we're just here to show each other our blind spots so that we can walk together. So I will share that 7-year cycle with you guys, and so that you can really pinpoint and find out where you are, and that'll really make sense to like what you're working through in your spiritual journey, in your human journey, in your body journey, and that me, myself, and I reflection of yourself. And also put on there my boundary list that I created from basically attracting a whole bunch of conflict into my life, where I kept saying yes, and instead of having the clear, full sentence experience of the word no. And that's the word that I'm having to learn in my life. And I've shared many times about surrender, and not surrendering ourselves to other people, but surrendering to the universe is our power. So I'll reiterate a little bit about that. So I will be sharing Saturday's TICA class, because it does talk about one of our A-team members that is no longer with us, and kind of the story behind that. Again, I don't ever tell stories from my emotional perspective. It's only facts, so there's not going to be anything that's out of alignment when we talk about anybody that's come or go from our reality or from our business. It's all love, it's all perfect, it's all exactly how it's supposed to be, it's all lesson based. But what I actually learned from this particular lesson is going to be featured in that class, and how I created my new boundary list, and how I hope that I can inspire you to sit down today and say, what am I done experiencing? And then create some boundaries around that. What am I done feeling? Create some boundaries around that. What people in my life are toxic or poisonous to me? They're not poisonous or toxinous people, because we're all God. But there are some people who literally affect my biochemistry in a negative effect, where I can't be authentic. Have a new boundary around those type of people. Change that relationship with those people. You know, where is self-love in your self-respecting boundaries? Does it consist of receiving and being open to? And then how are you going to have boundaries in learning how to receive safely? And these are all things to get you going down that rabbit hole of self. It's not about self-love right now, it's about self-respect. That's how we're going to really, really, really fine-tune June, because again, everything is this kind of imploded and exploded in May. That's been the catalyst that started in March, and it's been like a time bomb. And so now it's just kind of like, so now we want to take our power back, but not by taking our power back or away from anyone else, but rejuvenating ourselves with, what does self-respect look to me? Where am I giving away myself where I'm not getting that in return? Where are my one-sided relationships? You know, where am I having to have honor for this family dynamic that doesn't have honor to who I am and my mission on the planet? And so this is just what I'm going through, and for me, what I'm going through is usually what everyone else is going through, and that's why we're such an amazing team of light workers and empaths, is because, you know, our storyline is different, but we're all going through the same triggers of, we're really just getting to the place where we're done with certain things, and we've got to create the boundaries, because the boundaries is basically your new blueprint for the universe, to show them who and what you choose to be, and it's an intention. And, you know, with me, once I created my boundaries, again, having no boundaries has become a muscle, and that muscle is really strong, and I can react really quickly and say yes, you know, when I definitely mean maybe not. So I'm having to practice my boundaries every day, because my body knows my old set of boundaries, which was no boundaries. So I'm having to like remind myself, remember, we have to say no to this. Remember, we can't be around that person right now until we heal this belief system. Remember, and I'm having to baby myself into downloading the frequency of the new boundaries until it becomes automatic and subconscious. And once those boundaries become subconscious, I won't have to think about my boundaries anymore, but I have to honor myself to know that just because I say this is my boundary does not mean my body is going to actually speak and say and respond to my new boundaries, because it's programmed in my old self. So hopefully that made sense. I'm actually getting ready right now to jump over to the subscription group and do our channeled question and answer for the month. And that is, or actually the week. I've been a little bit behind because I will tell you my life has gone and now it's coming back. And I'm reborn again, and I'm optimistic and excited and in a different living environment, and lots of stuff has changed, which if you're in Quantum Life Paid, you're going to hear all about those changes. We've had changes to the A-team members. You know, people have come and gone. We've had lots of graduates. We're getting ready to do our TV show with Transformational TV, and start a whole new aspect of transcendence that way. We're working with our veterans community, and now we're specializing in some new PTSD technology, and that is not just for veterans, it's for all of us. And so we're really doing a lot. And the thing is you know, darkness chases light, because this is the game that we're playing on Earth. So the more you access your light, the more you're going to face those challenges of what you're not. And you've got to be able to, when you rise up to those new levels, be able to hold space for yourself and others, and have a support system. And that's exactly what TICA is. It's that support system for empaths and light workers and teachers, so that when the world feels very out of hand, and we at least have somewhere to plug into. And I've always said since 7 years ago, the thing that has kept me sane in this journey is being able to plug into the truth, wherever that is. A book, a podcast, a teacher, a coaching session, a healing, nature, meditation. Plugging into the truth of who you are will help you stay sane when nothing makes sense around you, because deconstruction is part of reality adjusting into a higher vibrational state. When you say yes, all of this has to go away or change or transform, and the ego gets very afraid of all that changing and says, I failed, what's happened? And the soul says, no, we had to let go of this story, we had to let go of this character, we had to let go of this person in order for us to move to the next level. And being able to be supported during those transcendent times is it's home. So if you haven't reached out to our other group, please do so, because the value is awesome in there, and we've got a lot going on in there that's it's going to be really, really from the heart this month, because we're not going to be sugarcoating anything, because I know you're all going through the same stuff we're going through. Heartbreak, you know, we're all but break down, break through, you know, break up, break through. So it's all for a divine purpose, even when it doesn't make sense. All right, so I'm going to jump over in the subscription group, and I am going to go ahead and answer these channeled questions. There's a lot of them today, so it will probably be over an hour. And then I'm going to be posting that TICA class from Saturday, and it's basically the channel transmission that I had with my higher self about self-respect and boundaries moving into June, and how important that is for an empath to reinvent and reconstruct who they are, and being able to hold boundaries is like holding space for yourself. It's like your own set of accountability, you know, because when you're in the vibration of love, you say yes to everything. You're like, yes, because that's inclusive. It's expansive. But when you drop out of that feeling and you're struggling and you're having a hard time, and then you're reminded what you agreed to when you were up here, you're like, oh, now I'm going to look like a flake because I don't feel like I want to do that. I don't feel like I can be that right now. And so boundaries will actually help you be able to be balanced between the highs and the lows of the journey that you're embarking right now. So I highly suggest that if you're not over in that group, that you just sit down and get with an accountability buddy or a support system and say, let's create some self-respecting boundaries this week. Okay? All right, so I'm going to hop over to the other group, and I will see you over there. And if not, I will see you all in TICA on Thursday night, or second Sunday coming up in a couple of weeks.